I interviewed Gilbert for one of the oral histories for the Florida Citrus Hall of Fame. I didn't know Gilbert personally. He was in Polk County. I knew him by reputation. But I can tell you a couple of the stories that I remember from the interview. And the first thing is that if you're a cash fruit buyer, a bird dogger, you have to have an impeccable reputation and extremely honest if you're going to stay in business for any length of time. And I know that in order for Gilbert to buy all the crops that he did and have the following that he did, he had to be a man of impeccable integrity. So, and he told me that he just kind of fell into the business of being a cash fruit buyer. That I think he and his brother started, and one thing led to another, and he had a couple of growers that allowed him to harvest their crop and pay him a little later, so he kind of got a good start. And so I think that as Gilbert moved through and was probably the largest cash fruit buyer at one time in the state of Florida, he had a reputation that his word, you could count on it. No need for contracts or lawyers or anything. If Gilbert said that that's the price and I'll pay you for it, and the deal was good. So, and then we got to talking about how times have changed, and now people wanted contracts that had to be reviewed by their attorney and my attorney, and then to get money from a bank you have to go to Baltimore or Chicago or someplace to get approval. But Gilbert said back in his day that all it took was a telephone call. He said, I could pick up the phone and call Likes Pasco and say, I need $1 million tomorrow, and they would say, you want to come pick it up, or do you want us to deliver it? And there were no banks to go through, no lawyers, no contracts, no anything else. And so, that's the kind of way Gilbert operated. And I believe that Gilbert was involved in so many things in the community that you don't know about. I'm big on preserving the history of citrus, and it doesn't take long before you realize how many benevolent organizations and other things were built with citrus dollars. And I'm sure that Gilbert's dollars were invested in church, community activities, other things all over, and other people can talk about some of those. And then the last comment that I wanted to make about Gilbert is sometimes our tentacles have unusual reaches and everything else. And we had a old folks gathering at Lake Alfred a while back, and Tom Thayer was there, and we were asking to tell some stories, and Tom said, well, he said, you might be interested in how micro sprinklers came to Florida. He said there was a meeting in South Africa for citrus nurserymen, and Tom wanted to go but didn't know whether he really could afford to go, and Gilbert said, Tom, you got to go. Said, I'll help you out. Because I think that what you can gather there, the information, will help the whole citrus industry and everything. And basically, Gilbert funded Tom's trip to South Africa. Now, if this isn't true, Tom, you can speak up, but that's the way I got the message. So Tom goes to the meeting in South Africa, and as part of that, they're out on tours, and he sees these little sprinklers that the South Africans had developed. And one thing led to another. He brought back some samples, and correspondence took place, and ultimately we have microjet and micro sprinkler irrigation in Florida. So we can say indirectly that if it wasn't for Gilbert, maybe Tom wouldn't have gone, and it might have been years later. But so in all the doings, you never know what kind of trickles out and what kind of side effects you have. So we can say that Gilbert Bowen encouraged and was responsible for the introduction of micro sprinklers into Florida. Take credit for it, Gilbert. You did a lot of other things that people probably don't even know about. So anyway, so my comments are that when you know a man from reputation and his reputation is spotless, you know the guy was a great fellow. And I thoroughly enjoyed that interview, and sadly it got lost someplace. But I had fun learning about Gilbert and the contributions that he made, not only to citrus, but he was a rock in his community. Those are the kind of people that built communities in Florida with citrus dollars.